All right, what is up, YouTube? My name is Josh. Nice to meet you. Just going to get one thing off the bat. You have seen me before. That is because I run a YouTube slash streaming channel called Samurai underscore, where I play video games. I go crazy, but that's that. That's that channel. I'm starting a new channel right now. This is gonna be called Sunflower Films. So welcome. Thank you to everybody that's gonna hop in today. Maybe some future videos. Maybe down the line. Just want to say thank you to everybody that hopped in today. Thank you to YouTube. Let me post these videos and just welcome in. So today we're gonna be doing an introduction video. If you're kind of like, okay, Sunflower Films, Josh, what do you got? All right. So basically, this channel for me is going to be not only a film review channel, film slash TV review, maybe more in the future. We don't know. Maybe more in the future, but mostly it's going to be film and TV. And also, to me, it's going to be kind of a categorized diary of my passion, which is to become a writer and movie maker. Now, I would love to be in Hollywood. But we'll see. We'll definitely see. We'll definitely see. I have no idea where this is gonna be in a year. Like, I'm just now recording this, so who knows how it will be. Um, Kind of like the whole reason I wanted to make this video not only is to introduce you to the channel, but also kind of give you some reason on like why you should even like listen to me. Like why should you even tune in? Because I know that there's a lot of people out there that are like, okay, why should I choose your video over anyone else's? And at the end of the day, you really don't have to. I appreciate if you do. I thank you. But if you don't, that's all fine too. But yeah, I kind of wanted to do my little background. I'll kind of do like a little preview of what the video reviews will look like, and then I got something at the end that I want to show you guys, kind of something more about the diary part of this channel. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we're gonna go start in the background, like I said. Basically, my background in film is that I've loved film ever since I was a kid. I know everybody says that, but it's true. So many people fall in love with film. But like to me, it just really means something. It's not like, oh, I love watching the occasional like movie, in theaters, stuff like that. No, 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 no. Like I love film to like the next level. I might not know all the name of the different shots or all the different writing techniques, but I love film to such like a deep level that it makes my day better. Like every weekend, even to now, or not as much now since I work, but every weekend since I was a kid, I would go watch a movie at least once a week. I like the first movie I can ever remember watching is with my dad. We were in his apartment. We were watching Spider-Man 1 or just Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, directed by Sam Raimi. That movie means so much to me. That trilogy means so much to me. Not just because, it's a movie, it's my first movie ever, but because it was Spider-Man. Spider-Man and that movie, and my dad showed me that movie was my first interaction ever with the superhero. If you know anything about me, I love Spider-Man. Like, obviously, there's a lot more going on behind me, so you can tell I love superheroes. But, like, I would style my hair after him. I would dress up as Spider-Man and have Spider-Man birthday parties. Even now, I still try to, live my life as Spider-Man, try to be selfless, try to help people. Now, I'm human. I don't always reach up to those standards. Now, I want to, and I push myself to try to, but, still, I fall, stuff like that. But that to me, that movie is so deeply ingrained in here and here. And so I wanted to thank my dad for showing me that movie and let you guys know that's my first movie. So if you ever, kind of like, okay, where does Josh's opinions, where does his, like thoughts all go back to? You can watch this video and you can be like, okay, maybe this is why Josh prefers this thing. And like when I do my movie review videos, I'm gonna tell you like, yes, I'm a little biased. Although my reviews should not be biased. I'm just saying like each review is a personal opinion. Yes, there are facts like yes, the camera lighting looks good here, or yes, the script writing is good here. But at the end of the day, it's an art. Film is an art. Like borderline, it's an art. Each artwork is interpreted differently by different people, and that's another thing I want to say real quick. When I do my reviews, um, like the first like a big portion of it is going to be story. My like interpretation of the story, my interpretation of the themes that the writer, the director, the actors, everybody in the film that was working on there is trying to tell us the audience, like trying to tell the audience. Now, obviously, everybody can pick a different theme, and we can sit here for hours and go over like the 800 themes that are in this one movie or in this one shot, mise en scène. But to me, like obviously we're here for such a short time. We're not going to be doing 800 themes, but they're also the themes that I pick, the things that I resonate with or that I actually notice. If I don't notice something, that doesn't mean it's not there. Maybe you guys notice it and you're like, oh, Josh, did you see this theme? Like, let me know in the comments. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I like find videos, like review videos, and like, oh, this is a really good theme, and I'm just like, well, I didn't even think about that. So like, yeah, or like if you just don't like my opinion on it, like a movie or a theme, like first off, not trying to hate, you if you like a movie that I don't like, and second, oh, hold on, let's pull a pause real quick. It's very rare that I don't like a film. Like I always give movies the benefit of the doubt, even if it's like a bad movie. I still try to find an upside to it, Like even in my reviews, I don't write like shitty remarks about a movie. Like I don't want to. Because one, it's a collaborative process, and a lot of people are working on that film, and just be like, that movie's ass. Like that's such a bad thing to do. At least to me, that's like I would hate to be in that position. Like you spent like months on a movie, and somebody's like, oh, that was asterisks. Like, yeah, stuff falls through the cracks on film production studios or sets and stuff like that. Maybe, this executive wants this, but the writer and director want this. They're gonna clash. You're gonna probably get like a half-baked movie or script, something like that. That or maybe the production's being rushed. Maybe the CGI is not the best. Like, yes, all those are factors that factor into the movie that make it, good, bad. But I never want to be like, I hate this movie. I hate this movie so much. Like no, no, we're like at least on this channel, we're not going to do that. Maybe if we review the Flash, maybe just that movie. But other than that, yeah, no. Even with the Flash, I'm gonna find some upsides. But yeah, no, I'm not gonna hate. And obviously, if I ever, like say something I don't like about a film and you do like it, like I'm not hating your opinion. Like I obviously want to hear your opinion. Like I always say this on my gaming channel. Like when I come up with character concepts for Marvel Rivals, which is what I do like every week, like once a week. I come up with a cool character concept for the game. I put my opinion on like what I think would be cool, like as a gaming kit for them, and I put it online. I put it on Reddit. Which does give me some crazy hit, like hey, for some people they don't like my opinion, like on what character should be added, or like what kid, like what in their kid should be added. But that's another topic. But like if I say something and you like either don't agree with it or you like you never you pull something out, let me know. Like I always say it on my other videos, my like concepts videos, like let me know. Like one, let me know if you liked it. How I do want to know if you guys liked it. Let me know if you didn't like it. Let me know why. Let me know if you didn't like it and why. Like, do you think if I could have picked out something better? Like, do you think I could have picked out a theme better? Or do you think that maybe I was too harsh on something? Like, let me know. I want to know. Like, film is not only a collaborative art when you're making it, but when you're reacting to it. Like, at least me, when I watch a video, like, obviously I don't let what other people say about, like, the movie. Like, Disclosure Day, for example, I really like that film. Now, I'm not going to let what other people say about Disclosure Day affect my opinion of it, but I still want to see what people say. So like I would love to hear when I make these videos your opinions and what you think about it. And you let me know. Like I'm more than happy to talk about it. That's what I'm here for. That's the whole reason why I'm making these videos on YouTube. So I just wanted to say that once again. If I say something in a video that you do not agree with, obviously let me know. Because like I said, I always want to talk about with other people about their opinion on films, acting, writing, storytelling. Like I love doing that. That's one of my favorite things to talk about. So I went to film school for a bit because I love talking with people like that. But yeah, and then like again, I'm never hating on your opinion or anything. Even if I don't like a film as much as you, like it's not me hating on it. It's just my opinion on it. All right, so I want to get at that out of the way. All right, going back to the backstory. So, if you notice in this video, we've done a little bit of jumping back and forth, but I promise we're not gonna go too crazy. We're not gonna go too crazy. All right, so next thing. So, I was probably like 5 or 4 when my dad showed me Spider-Man, so that was really good. And then I will have 2 uncles. Well, I have a lot more than 2 uncles. But for the like, the basis of the story, we're gonna bring up 2 uncles. We're gonna do Uncle A, we're gonna do Uncle B. Those are no there's no uncle better than the other. It's just I don't want to say their names, and that's how we're gonna differentiate them. We can't be like Uncle 1, Uncle 2. That's like to me that sounds more like you're rating them. Uncle A and Uncle B. So Uncle A actually lives, pretty close to me from where I live. Uncle B lives a little more farther away, a couple cities down or whatever. So Uncle A, when I was a young kid, he introduced me to Star Trek and Star Wars. Now I haven't watched Star Trek, as much as I love Star Wars, but I'll never forget. We went to go see a movie theater by our house. Oh, sorry, we went to a movie theater by our house to go see The Phantom Menace. He took me there when I was a young kid, and I remember, I'll never forget, we had these cool Darth Maul 3D glasses, and when he showed me that movie, that was my first interaction ever with Star Wars. So, obviously, I love Star Wars. I don't think I have anything Star Wars behind me. No, I actually you can't see it, but, over here, there's some Star Wars Hot Wheels. There's also some Legos, but no, not topic. But yes, I love Star Wars. Obviously, Star Wars is a very influential film in American, film. But obviously, to me, I just love Star Wars for like what it's trying to say, the storytelling, where it gets the its examples from all that. But yeah, so that's my first uncle. And then my second uncle, he really got me into film. Like, not only does he have like thousands of films in his Apple library or his Voodoo library, Fandango library, whatever you want to call it, he actively just watches so many different genres of film. And so to me, like, not only did I just start right here with Spider-Man superhero films, and then my uncle opened me up to more like sci-fi films, and then Uncle B, he showed me to all these like huge range of films. He taught me there's more to than just, like one, two, there's hundreds. There's foreign films, there's animated films, there's comedies, romance, all of that. So obviously, for a kid that just went to watching a movie once a week, this like blew my mind. And obviously, I would watch it on his account, so I had access to like all sorts of movies. There's black and white, there's color, there's 4K. Like, you got all this going on. It's just like wow. So like I always watch films. Even though I didn't go to the movies, I was watching a film at home on my uncle's account. But yeah, like I love film. It's always been a part of me. Now, I will say more than just, like, my family, like, films means a lot more to me on an emotional side. So, like, as a kid, like, I'm 20, so, like, I'm still pretty much a kid. But, when I was younger in middle school and high school, I didn't have a lot of friends. I was pretty, like, a socially awkward dude. I don't know, it's not like it's not like on purpose, it's just, like, I have, like a hard time connecting with people, stuff like that. So, I don't really have a lot of friends. Or, sometimes, when I do have my friends, kinda, like, they're busy and stuff like that, so I don't really get to talk to them as much. But, I find myself alone a lot, and so a way I kinda, deal with that is to watch movies. Because in my family with my dad and my mom, we don't really express our emotions a lot, and it's not like a bad well, it is a bad thing, but, like, they don't do it on purpose, they're not trying to, like, hurt me. It's just how they are, they don't express their emotions like that, so I don't really get to express my emotions with anybody. You know? I don't really get to talk like with many friends about my emotions. So the way I kind of dealt with that is I would watch movies. Obviously I wouldn't just pick a movie to make me sad, but I would watch movies that happen to have where the characters happen to have the same emotions as me. It kind of made me feel like I wasn't alone. It kind of made me feel like there is another side to this tunnel. Like there is light at the other end of the tunnel. You don't have to be sad this entire time. That really like made me feel better. At least to me. And that's why I like movies so much. It's an escape. Like obviously obviously it's amazing to see John Wick just shoot up the place, just crazy action going on, or it's amazing to watch Marvel films and see that, oh my god, that's Tobey Maguire, oh my god, that's Andrew Garfield, like that's amazing. But like movies on a deeper level, like to me, are about emotion and connections between people. Like that's what draws me into movies. Even at the baseline, like Spider Man, he's just like a normal dude, besides superpowers. He's just like a normal dude that struggles just like the rest of us, and I mean, I think that's why so many people are able to relate to Spider-Man or, Captain America. He's just trying to do good, even if that's against his own nature, he's trying to be a good person, he's trying to help people, and everybody has their flaws. Spider-Man had the symbiote suit, he thought he was cool wearing the suit, doing put some dirt in his eyes, but, yeah, no, like, movies mean a lot to me. Movies mean a lot to me. Especially going through high school when I got, like, pretty big depression, I still have it, but, I kinda have it under control a little bit, but, I mean, I don't know, especially, like, being out of college or sort of out of college, I'll talk about it in a minute. But, I kinda just find myself alone, so I find movies. Movies is my best exit. Movie and writing, and we'll get into writing in a minute. But, yeah, especially in high school, high school is rough. Every time I talk to my parents, like, "Oh, it's not how high school was." I was like, "Yeah, we're in a different era now." People are rude. People are mean. But yeah, I'm not trying to blame them. It was just me. Like, I didn't. I have the best high school experience. But, movies is something I could always fall back onto, I could always watch a movie and, make the world escape for like 2 hours. All my worries and all my issues, they would just be gone, I'm just sitting in the theater, sitting on my couch, you know, staring into the movie, fully encapsulated, and it made me feel better, It made me just I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people have been there, but to me, it just means something on a deeper level. I like getting able to relate to those emotions and stuff like that. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to me. All right, so basically, come the end of high school, senior year. They're like, all right, Josh, what are you gonna do? I'm like, I don't know. Right? Most people don't know. I think a lot of people didn't know in my high school. They were like, "Oh yeah, I want to go be a nurse. I'm going to be a scientist." But all that I didn't really know. Every time they called me into the office, they're like, "So what do you want to be?" Could not tell you. Could not tell you. And it's not like I made bad grades. I made like really good grades. I was in honor society and all that. Like I'm not trying to toot my horn. I'm just saying like I wasn't a bad student. It's just I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then I was like, um, kind of like maybe the middle of the year. We were watching like I think the new Stranger Things season came out, or like I was catching up on Stranger Things. I don't know. But basically, my senior year, I started watching Stranger Things. Obviously, if you've seen Stranger Things, they play D&D. That's their favorite thing. They're kids from the 80s. They like D&D. And so I told my friends, I was like, "Hey, I want to play D&D. Like try it out. Why not?" So I was researching D&D. Trying to figure out how we play. Even to this day, I still don't I still don't know how to play D&D. And so, like, after, like, looking at it, I was like, "Okay, this is a lot going on. Why don't we just write, like, our own story? That way we can just have a lot of fun." And it was around Christmas time, so, like, we were, like, trying to make it Christmas themed. That way, like, when we went over to our friend's house for Christmas, we could just, play that. Every time we went over to everybody's house, we'd play games like Mario Party, all sorts of stuff like that, Splatoon, Smash Bros, Mario Kart, stuff like that. That's what people do every time you go have a sleepover and all that. But, you know, um, I took it upon myself. I was like, "Hey, I'll write the campaign, and you guys just we'll just play." So and so can create the character, or we can create the characters on Hero Labs, or maybe 3D print them. Somebody can draw them apps, stuff like that. And I was like, "I'll write the campaign. I'll talk to the map guys, say how the story's gonna go. How long it's gonna be. Just let me guys know what you want your characters to be like, and I'll implement it." So I started writing the story. It was a pretty wild campaign. We never played it because eventually, come Christmas time, or whenever we saw each other outside of hanging out with our families over the break, like I don't know, something happened where my friend was like, "Oh, we're not playing that." And we were all like, "Yeah, we are." And he's like, "Oh, no, we're not. We can't play that here." Anyway, we never ended up playing it. On top of that, I never actually finished it. Like by the time that happened, so we would have been playing an unfinished campaign. But when I started writing that, like, that was obviously, like, my first ever thing I wrote, wrote, not like an essay, not doing my homework, like, actually, like, writing, taking the time to use my creativity and write something, and to me, I really liked that. Like, I really enjoyed that, and I was like, This is weird, like, I've never had this feeling before. Because like, a lot of times in high school, I wasn't very good at things, and that was another issue on, like, why I didn't enjoy high school that much, Why I kinda felt like, like an outcast is because I didn't I was in band, I was in baseball, well, I wasn't good, though, and so people, people don't let you know people don't stop letting you know that, they're like, "Oh, why don't you get better?" Like, "Why don't you just keep practicing?" Even when I did practice a lot, I would still be bad, I would still fail to, like, meet those expectations, and people wouldn't, like, stop reminding me, so it made me feel bad about myself. But with this writing, it made me feel good. It made me feel like I could like actually create something. It made me feel like I was good at something. And so basically I started writing like more, outside outside of the D&D campaign. That's still that's still forgotten. I mean, I have it, but I just never touched it again afterwards. But I still I still laugh about it when I think about it. But I started writing more, and you're like probably like, "What did you write?" Well, I started writing poems, and the poems actually helped me like connect with what I was feeling, depression, all this other stuff. And I actually really enjoyed doing that. And I started writing short stories, like medium-sized stories, and they're really cool. Like I really had a fun time writing them. And then like I really grew an appreciation for English class, like reading a book. Because some when I was younger, I hated reading. Like I never enjoyed it because you're sitting and looking at words, and you have to like kind of imagine it. But something that could always like help me was like either watching the movie or just like as I'm reading the book, I was like, "Okay, what would this look like as a movie?" Like if I'm reading, I don't know, The Great Gatsby. Obviously, there's obviously there's a movie on it, but if I was reading it and, like, the description says, like, ABC, how would this look like in a movie's format? And I would always do that, like, subconsciously. I don't know why, like, I'd always be, like, reading a book in class, I'd be like, "Oh, this would be, like, a cool movie if you did, like, this, or you did this, or stuff like that." And so, on top of that, and then kind of growing appreciation more for film not film, um, for English class, like, here are themes, this is why Shakespeare, is so good because he added all this stuff into English and, he kind of added these structures. And personally, I love Shakespeare. I love his writing. Now, I will say, I do think a lot of the backhand of his stories are rushed, but that's a story for another time. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed English class a lot more, especially like as I started writing more. And so, come the end of senior year, they're like, "Okay, Josh, where are you going?" My parents wouldn't leave me alone. They're like, "Where are you going for high school? I mean, college?" And I was like, "I don't know." And then, I took a second trying to think like, what did I really want to do? And I was like, "Okay, why don't I just become a writer for movies?" And obviously, I had no experience. Somebody come from Texas, like, what do I know about writing movies? But I was just like, why not? I love movies already, so like, why not create things that I like to do or like I like to watch? If I enjoyed writing because it made me feel better and I liked watching movies because it made me feel better, why not, put the two of them together? It made sense to me. So I applied to a film school, I got in, and come freshman year, I actually went. When I was out there, I really enjoyed it. I met so many great people. They made me like feel really good about myself, and they're some of my best friends. So I love those guys and girls. Love them all. My college, my dorm mates, they're super nice, super lovely people. And the people in my classes, they're amazing people. I really like them. Now, coming college, what does every college freshman do? They drink, they party, all of that. So I started showing up to classes late. I started forgetting to do my homework, all of that. That I will say is my biggest mistake. That's my biggest regret. When going there, I kind of forgot why I was there. I kind of forgot that I was there for, to become a filmmaker, to write. Because my major was screenwriting. I just kinda, like, let it fall by the wayside, and then I couldn't pay for classes anymore because I don't come from, like, a very, you know, rich family. We make do. We're not, without money, but, I just didn't have enough money to go to college, so I had to come back home. And then for about a year, I fell into another depression state where it's kinda like, "Why did I do that?" Like, "Why did I just let it fall apart?" I was upset that I left because I really enjoyed being out there. It's nice being around people that actually understand film the way that I do. It's nice to talk about story structure, film, like actual film, a camera, like shots, all of that, just like how I perceive it. It's nice to talk to people like that. But now it's gone. It made me feel like that dream is just gone into nothing. Like maybe, and then like on top of that, when I tried writing, it was like, what's the point? Like, why am I writing anymore? Like, it's not going to get me anywhere. And if it turned into worse stuff, I was like, my writing's just ass. I think a part of like why it was because I was getting bad grades in school, like in college. And I think that all these back to like I wasn't taking it seriously. It had nothing to do with my writing, itself. It's just I wasn't taking it seriously. So like I was doing bad. Like I didn't think I was, I thought I don't know. Like I just didn't take it seriously. And I was like, okay, well then, if I didn't take it seriously and I probably didn't pay attention to that, I got bad grades. So I was just like, well shit, like I'm terrible. Like nobody even wants me anyway. Like so why should I keep writing? So I fell into a year where I just didn't write. I stopped watching movies. And that was probably like the darkest, time I've ever had. I was like I just didn't feel like myself. I just like kind of wanted to like curl up in a blanket, not talk to the world. I kind of felt like a failure. I didn't want to do anything. But come a few months ago, I was like, you know what? No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna let somebody else dictate. I'm not gonna let my mistakes dictate my future. I'm gonna change that. And so I started getting on Letterbox. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna write my little opinions about movies. Every time I watch a movie, like my brain just going and going and going and going. Obviously now more than it ever did before because how I write my reviews, but which we'll talk about in a minute. Um, yeah, like when I sit there, I'm just kind of like, okay, like every time I watch a movie, I try to like come up with like at least one or two themes in the movie, no matter what it is. The most bizarre movie like Asteroid City you've ever seen to something like The Shack. I don't know. I always try to take away a few things in the movie. I just kind of sit there. I'm like, oh, that's a really cool theme, or like that's a really nice shot, stuff like that. And I was like, because like when I just sit there like that year, or just in general, after I started writing, all these, like, things started, like, coming to my head. I was like, "Oh, that's a cool story. That's a cool poem." I just like and I couldn't do anything with them. I was too afraid to write. So they just it bogs my mind. It's like a huge headache. And so, and then when I would watch film, it's even more of a headache. So I was like, okay, well, how do I get back to this? How do I start again? And like I'm still struggling with it, my writing, because I still feel like ah, like I'm not good enough. But that's why I'm coming on here, because this is gonna be a document where I document myself and force myself to it. That way, I can show myself like, hey, you're gonna get better. People might like what you have to write, and if they don't, at least you try. That's what I want to do. At least try. Because I feel like if I don't try, then I'll hate myself even more than just like if I didn't do it. Even if I did it and it didn't work out the way I wanted to, at least I can be happy knowing that I tried, as opposed to never trying again and just wondering what if, you know? But anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah. Yeah, so basically I started getting on Letterbox, which I had used before I went to college. And I didn't know what I was doing when I first used it, because I remember it was still pretty new when the app came out, and I just like put movies on it that I watched. That's basically what I did. I was keeping track of all the movies I watched, especially with Uncle B, when I was at his house, because he always showed me like pretty cool movies, like movies I never thought I'd even watching. So I always wanted to like put all the movies down I watched. That way I never watched them again. That way I could like watch something new. Or that way I could tell people like, "Hey, I watched this really cool movie my uncle showed me." Like Paper Moon was a really good movie that I had never even heard of before until he showed me. And that's like obviously I'm gonna watch that again, review that on this channel, and let you guys know about it. That way you guys can hear about it, because that's a great movie. I love that movie. Um, but anyway, like I don't know what I was doing as a kid. Like I would just like in the part where you review, I would just like copy and paste the Google like synopsis of the movie and just put that in there, and I would rate it. I don't know what the fuck I was doing. But yeah, no, a couple of months ago, I just started like actually reviewing movies. I created my own format of how I wanted to do it, and I went to town, and I found that's like it made me feel a lot better. Now, obviously, I wasn't back to where I was at the beginning. I wasn't writing anymore. I still kind of felt like I was like, like what's, kind of like what's the point? You're not gonna do anything with film anymore. Just kind of like stop wasting your time. So about like a month ago, I was like, even more. I was like, no, I'm not gonna stop. I don't want to stop. I love films, especially like writing those reviews again. It made me feel like, yeah, you obviously really know a lot about films. Obviously, you don't know everything. I didn't finish film school. I got to a semester and a half, if that. So like, obviously, I don't know everything. That's just like how it is. But I cared about it enough that I was writing about it. So why didn't I just go back to what I wanted to do? Why am I gonna let the fact that I'm not in film school anymore stop me? Like that's to me that's just kind of stupid. So I'm just like taking it upon myself. So I bought a bunch of books. Here's one of them right now. I'm currently reading it. It's pretty good. And then I read this other one. This was also pretty good. This one's really good. I already annotated this one. This one's all finished. So, but yeah, I definitely do recommend this one. If this is a good film one, and then I have like hundreds of other ones over there that I'm going to be reading. But yeah, I was just like, you know what? No, I'm not gonna let this stop me. But we'll see how we'll see how I get there. That's kind of like why I want to document on here. But, yeah, I was like, "No, I'm not gonna let that stop me." And then I realized, as I was doing my character concept videos for, my Twitch channel, my YouTube channel, I was like, "Okay, I find it easier to kind of explain, these character concepts when I'm talking on a video, as opposed to just writing it." Like, obviously, I'm gonna write it. That way, like, I know what to say, but, as I'm reading it and writing it or rehearsing it, like, to the video camera, like, I'm able to, like, explain it a lot better. I'm able to sit here and talk to you and be like, okay, like, this is how this works, instead of just, like, my wording being, like, difficult. Not just because, like, I put it down grammatically, but just that way, sometimes stuff isn't as clear as it is, like, with another sense. Like, I can read something and I might read it incorrectly from how it's supposed to be said, but if somebody's saying it to me, I might pick up on the way it's supposed to be. But yeah, it's kind of the same thing. And I was like, okay, that's what I started to do. I was like, I want to do that for my film reviews, because sometimes like I always watch all these other people like New Rock Stars or Screen Crush or Heavy Spoilers. Like I love those guys. I actually got to meet the guy from Screen Crush. That was one of my most favorite moments ever. Shout out to Screen Crush. It's such an amazing. Those people are amazing. I love those people. But yeah, I got to meet them in Los Angeles when I came back from Christmas. So that was amazing. And I actually made a promise. to the guy Screen Crush. I was like, "Hey, man, one day," because I took a photo with him. I was like, "One day, I'm gonna write something, and I would love for you to, break it down." And he, kind of like his face, he was kind of just like, like, "Wow, that's really thoughtful of you." And then, like, to me, like, that was something I meant. I'm not just like, saying it just because I really like the guy. Like, I said that because I meant it. So I'm like, that's another reason. Like, I'm not gonna just give up. I made that promise because I want to keep it. And so, that and like a million other things are like why I want to come back. Right? I don't want to be sad. I want to write. Like, I know that I can. It's just I'm afraid to because all these other things. And so, yeah, like, I was like, obviously, like, if I explained my reviews on the movies on a video, I feel like it's a lot better. Because like, I like their videos, but sometimes there's some things that, like, they don't pick up on because they're kinda like Easter egg videos or quick summaries, like 30 minutes, stuff like that, that I wanna touch on. Now, obviously, I haven't watched every YouTuber online, like, or 3C Films. He does a really good job. He does, like, a really short, like, spoiler-free movies that are, like, really nice, and it really just tells you, like, "Hey, you should probably go watch this movie," or, maybe you shouldn't watch this movie. Maybe you should wait for streaming. And taking from like what they've done and from what I want to do, I kind of wanted to make my own videos, which we'll get into in a minute. But on top of that, I was like, okay, let me take it a step further. Because I found that if I force myself to do something, then it's a lot easier to actually do that thing. Like instead of just like sit on the couch, like, why not be productive, you know? Like, why not just, like, actually do something? Like, that's why I started streaming, because obviously, like, I wanted to, like, chat with people because it's like, it's better than just playing a game by yourself just, like, bored. Yeah, like on Twitch, you can, like, people just come up in the chat and they're like, "Hey, what's up?" You're like, "What's up?" You know? It makes the gaming, fun, and that's kinda like what I wanted to do here, like, cause like, at least on Twitch, I'm forcing myself to, be productive in a sense that, like, my gaming's not just being nothing. At least it's entertainment for somebody, hopefully somebody. And on here, I want to force myself, especially with like it being a video format and it's like actually recorded, time stamped, all that, to like, force myself to like read my books, write, you know? And like we'll get to that in the second half of the video because basically I have a 5 month promise to myself that by that date I want to be, done. Like, or sorry, not done. I want to have those things accomplished. Give myself that deadline. And so, yeah. But for the first part, that's it. That was basically the backstory. So that was kind of a big yap sesh, but yeah. And we'll kind of like talk about it a little bit more on on how I review the films, on kind of like how films like work in my head and like why I really want to talk about them on video. And you'll kind of see like, oh, like maybe this is why he wanted to make a video because there's a lot going on that maybe you don't pick up on, reading or stuff like that. But yeah, that's kind of like the backstory on like why I'm here, why I'm making these videos. So if you're interested, stay tuned. If you're not, then thanks for watching so far. Thank you, appreciate it. All right, but let us go ahead and check out this Google Doc. All right, so hold on, let's go to this one. Go to this one. So this is my letterbox review. Like this is my outline when I create my reviews. Like this is obviously like a very small one for Akira because this is when I first started off. But if we go to something like now, okay, love that. Like let's what was my most recent review? Punisher, the TV special, or not TV special, the special presentation from Disney Plus. So you got Punisher, One Last Kill, and then like this is like an average. It was just one, two, three, four, basically 4 and some change, if that. This is kind of like an average review that I make. Like this is the length, and obviously if you read this, you'll see it's kind of like broken down, and that's why I have this at the beginning here. This breakdown because this is what I talk about in my review. So obviously I go into very big depth about it, and that's like why I wanted to make a video because like yes, this is like kind of like digestible, but like no one's gonna go on Letterbox and read this behemoth of like a review. So like obviously on video it's a lot easier. You can kind of just like put on YouTube in the background while you're doing whatever, and listen. Like you can't just like multitask reading. You can't be like I don't know driving and like read at the same time. Like I would never want anybody to do that. That's why we have audiobooks. But yeah. So basically, obviously, what I do is I put the name. Very obvious. I put Akira. I put the year it came out and then the day I watched it. So I watched Akira on February 9th, which is a great film. Definitely a good film. And then basically, this is broken in down into each side. So this is gonna be film, and this is gonna be TV show or miniseries. I actually never done a TV show or miniseries review yet. I need to. I think it'll be Eyes of Wakanda or Spider Noir. Those two are probably gonna be my first ones. And then, but yeah, this is how my film one is. We're basically just talking about this one because they're basically the same. The only difference is I have in an episode topic, like what's the best episode, or like how does the story um like feel across the episodes, as opposed to just in one movie. Also, like it says like, oh fuck, ah, yeah. Also, it just says like, what's the name of this? Like, what season number is it? Like, we're talking about Loki season two. Like, obviously, like it would be like my review for it would be for season two. It's not gonna be for the whole show. Like that's it's easier to like talk about a review for like a season. It's more digestible than it is for like the whole show. At least to me. All right, so basically how it starts is my review, like on Letterboxd, is broken into two parts: story and production. To me, I think story is the most important thing in a film. Like obviously everything else makes the film, but I think the groundwork is story. Like if you don't have a compelling story, then like nobody wants to watch your film. Like nobody wants to watch a movie about Spider-Man just swinging around the city. Let me take that back. Maybe they would, but like for the most part, you want to see Spider-Man like overcome something, become, you want to see something really cool. You don't want to just see Spider-Man eating the pizza. So basically, it starts with the story itself, like writing. Kind of like, I would say like all three of these are kind of jumbled together. Oh, actually, I would say it's probably like this first, and then I kind of go into characters, and then it goes into writing. But basically, whenever I pull out a review, I usually do my intro sentence. So like, as you can see here, this is a very short one, but very clear. I was just like, wow, just wow. I usually come up with an intro sentence, or like, let's see what another one is. Okay. Being the golden standard for something is very hard. It's even harder when it forces you to be something that you aren't. So that was K-pop Demon Hunters. Like, if you ever read my, or if anybody ever reads my letterbox reviews, like that kind of supposed to pull you in. You're like, oh, okay, let's see what this is about, And then I kind of talk about themes, pushing slash story. So, like, the most important thing to me is themes. Like, what am I supposed to take away from the film? Like, on like a deeper level. Like, obviously, like if I'm watching, I don't know, Superman, he's supposed to be building up the DCU. James Gunn's supposed to be making this whole universe. But like, what is he trying to say about Superman? Superman, even though he's an alien, is still human in the sense that he makes mistakes. He's trying to be a good person, even though he's not actually human, and that's what being human is: trying to be a good person, even though you have these moments of fault, like of not being perfect. Even though everybody thinks Superman's perfect, he's not. But yet he's still able to come back every day and still do that. But and that goes into themes and meanings, metaphors, and like that's probably like the biggest part of my review because like I go so deep into it. Like with Punisher, for example, some of my themes I have on this note card were loss, family, containment, pain and suffering, duty, revenge, the cycle of revenge. And when I talk about these themes, not only do I just talk about it, like, oh, I really like how Punisher talks about revenge in the sense that Punisher's getting revenge on all the gangs that killed his family. But I try to tie the themes into each other. So like Frank Castle, the Punisher. He is suffering with loss, not only from his family, but with himself. Like he feels lost. He doesn't know what to do because in the special, like spoiler alert, he kills the last remaining people that killed his family. So his mission is over. He's a Marine. Like before he became a Punisher, he was a Marine. And what do Marines do? They complete their missions. And after they do that, what is their next to do? Like, what is the next mission? Well, there is no next mission for Punisher as of like in that moment. So he feels lost and he kind of just wants to, retire. But the role of Punisher has grown outside of that. It's not just, to avenge his family. It's become something so much more to the people of New York and the surrounding cities. But he doesn't feel like, like that's his responsibility because he's not a good guy. He knows the stuff that he's done is wrong and he wants to just stop and leave it alone. But he's also struggling with the fact that because he's a Marine, he doesn't give up. And so like he feels that if he doesn't do that, he's giving up, but he knows he can't because that's not what Punisher stands for. Punisher is not a hero. So yeah, like those that's a big example. And so like obviously later in the special, because of his actions, Ma Nucci, the mother of the people that he just killed of the Nucci family, she gets revenge on him. So it's kind of funny to see how his revenge and his actions turn into more revenge. It's a cycle of revenge. Obviously, there's a lot more going on in Punisher. Tons of stuff. Kind of like how I said he feels trapped, like that containment. But you get what I'm saying. Like I try to put all my themes together and make it feel cohesive. But yeah, like those are what speak to me the most in movies. Like when I'm watching a movie, I'm like, okay, this is really interesting. Like, yeah, I'm like, this is a cool shot. I like the lighting. I like the way people are set up in the shot. But to me, the writing is what makes the cake. Like I'm like, oh, even if it's not an interesting story, which I don't think I've watched that many movies that don't have interesting stories. Like if the what it's trying to tell me is really nice, then I really enjoy it. Like sometimes I don't like a film that's the best, but if it's trying to say something to me that I really like or resonate with, then I'll really tend to like it a lot more than other people. All right. But yeah, so I do my interest in it, I do my themes, and then I talk about character, story, and like characters. So like the writing itself. So like I don't know, uh Valentine's Day. Like I think that's an interesting story. Like beside like putting the themes aside, like love and all that, I think the story is really interesting. How you're able to grab these different groups of people and kind of like make their story like kind of tangle together. Or like pace like story and pace that kind of put together. Like obviously it's like, different ordered on here. I wrote this a long time ago, like in February. We're like what, June 20th right now? But because like I kind of just like do it to my like I kind of like morph it into a way that makes sense to myself on like newer reviews. But like story and pacing, I'm like, this was a good story. I think that like the pacing of the story kind of like did really good, especially if you're looking at the three act structure. You're like, this is what happens at the beginning, and then you move on to the second half. You kind of like they fall, they come back, and they go on that last push. I think the story had a good ending. But yeah, I kind of talk about that. And like, yeah, I thought the story was pretty good, like outside of themes, or like maybe like the themes are really good, but the story was kind of boring. Like obviously, like it wasn't going to be the most amazing film if the story's like kind of like boring. And then that's when I kind of get into characters, because characters do make the story. Like you don't have a story without characters. You're just gonna have like like the word like a theme, like a word on this like on the movie, and everybody's like, yes, yes. And you don't have Valentine's Day without Ashton Kutcher or Bradley Cooper, and I can't remember everybody else that's in the film. But you know what I'm saying? Like you don't watch a movie just look at a word, or like your background. You watch them to go watch the characters. Um, Obviously you want to go see the actors too, but I'm talking about characters. Like people love Spider-Man, they love Peter Parker. Like that's a really interesting character. Or Frank Castle to me, he was a really interesting character in the last Punisher special. Or I think Grace, Dr. Grace from Project Hail Mary. He was a really interesting character. And I'll talk about that in my first review, which will come out later, which is Project Hail Mary. I think his character in Project Hail Mary was super interesting. I think the story was amazing, but like if you take the story aside and you just look at the character and the character arc of him, I think it's quite amazing. Like I don't want to talk about it too much, 'cause, like what's the point of me making the review? But like spoiler, his whole like self-discovery journey on like um being selfish and then like not being selfish anymore is like really really cool. Like he needs to save the world and he just can't. He can't find that self into him to like sacrifice himself. He just can't do that. And then come the end of the movie, he finally does that. Obviously like most movies end with a good ending, but I was like really involved with that and I was like, I really like this. But there's that. And then basically that's kind of like all I do for the story. I kind of just like wrap it up with like, oh, really good story, really good character, stuff like that. And I probably put like a transition sentence into production. So production is kind of like where I get more into like the other side of film, because that's like I see film as two parts. Obviously they work together, but I see them as two parts. Like somebody writes the film, that's the end of part one. Obviously rewrites and all that other stuff. That's the end of part one. Then you got part two. You got to bring that script to life. You can't just be like Spider-Man shoots webs. Well, how does he do that? Where is he at? Who is he shooting webs at? Like what do the webs look like? If we're looking at Spider Noir on Amazon, well then he has black webs. Does he have organic webs? Does he have web sling? What like organic? Not organic. So you have web shooters, like what do all these look like? If you're looking at Project Hail Mary, if it's like, Rocky, talking about Rocky. Well, what does Rocky look like? Is he a puppet? Is he CGI? And that's where we get into the production side. Like I think production, not only like I said, the story make the movie like really good. I think production is where a movie gets like its identity. Like you hear about all these, like film stories about, the creators, they didn't have enough money or they didn't really know what this was gonna look like. And they kind of just went on a whim. They kinda just did something, and, it made so much sense then, Like, Steven Spielberg, he's a great director. Like Jaws, it wasn't the most expensive film, but he made it into something, when your back's against the wall, like, film, your creativity there just, like, really makes something special, and so, yeah, that's what I, like to touch on production side, because there's so many people that, like, go into a film that, like, if I was just like, "Oh, yeah, the writing's good." That, I feel like I'm, doing a disservice not only to myself, but to all the people that worked on it, there's so many other things in film that I love and that people put hard work into that need to be, talked about. Like, everybody always talks about the director, they're like, "Oh my god, that was such a good Sam Raimi film." And we're not, it doesn't stop there. There's the actors, Obviously, people are like, "Oh my god, Ryan Gosling did an amazing job." But there's more actors than just, like Ryan Gosling, like the actor of Rocky, he did an amazing job too. Or Sandra Hüller, she did a great job. Or I don't know what his name is, but the guy that did the security guard, he did an amazing job too. Or like the other astronauts, the lady and the dude. I don't remember their names off the top of my bat, but they were really good actors, even though they had really short screen time. Or if we're looking at the Punisher special, obviously, Punisher actor. Why is it blanking on me? Hold on, How am I blanking on the Punisher? I love the Punisher actor. Hold on, let me get here real quick. I know it's here. Not the story. Ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-bum. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-bum. John Bernthal. I don't know why I forgot that, but I think Bernthal is a great actor, and obviously he cares a lot about Punisher, so he's gonna put a lot of effort into it. Now, I think the actress Tamara Nucci did an amazing job too. Like she doesn't have the same amount of screen time as John Bernthal, but she still puts on an amazing performance. And even like the little girl in the cafe that Punisher saves, she doesn't even really speak that much, but she does an amazing job. And so there's all these different actors that sometimes they don't get the appreciation that they deserve that I want to give them because they make the film. I think they should get that. On top of that, directing. Yeah, obviously the director has a bunch of going on. He has a vision for the film. Maybe because he wrote it, maybe because he didn't, but maybe because he knows about like this topic, stuff like that. And so like obviously you got to give props to the director. He knows how to handle the film. But yeah, that's kind of obvious, or maybe it's a director that we haven't seen before, like something for Backrooms, Kane. Kane. Like, he was working on YouTube, and then, like, Backrooms, the movie, is his first ever directorial debut, and I've seen Backrooms, and that's the review I need to do next. He did an amazing job, and I cannot wait to see where he's going next. So, like, sometimes you wanna, point that out, like, "Hey, this is the guy's first time directing an actual, like, full-length feature film." And he did an amazing job. Or you're like, he did like this good and this was pretty okay, but I want to see it worked on next time. Or like he didn't really focus on this, so maybe I think next time he should work on this. Because I've seen people online, they're like, oh, I've seen what people say online, and it kind of helps me to know what I need to work on next time. And like that's not that's not fully what this is about, but I do want to focus on that too. Same thing with cinematography. I think cinematography is one of the most important things in film. To me, I think you should be able to take a single shot of the film, scene, whatever you want to call it, or shot actually, scene is moving. I think you should be able to take a single shot of the film and like it should tell you basically what's going on. You know, Obviously there's outlying aspects, moments. Maybe they're doing like a huge like large shot, of like I don't know, like a field. You might not be able to tell what's going on, but like if you're watching Interstellar and they're in space with the spaceship, off to the side, like it should tell you what's going on. Like film, I think, does something that a lot of arts can't because it's able to combine a lot of other arts into it, like music, dance. acting, writing, and you can all, like, kinda morph it together and, like, make it this, like, really, really amazing, tangible, like, thing that people can experience. Like, don't get me wrong, I love art. I think ballet is amazing. I think drama, like, theater is amazing. I think, poetry is amazing. Like, they're all great. But to me, film is that is the one I love the most because like, you can just really just, like, take so many things in there, like Black Swan, the dancing in there is amazing, but you can show things with, like, movies that you can't maybe show in a like, obviously in a book or in ballet, maybe you can't get that close to the ballet dancer and show that she's struggling even though she's putting on this amazing show. Like, I don't know, I think film, like, brings you closer and it makes it more, like, deep. Like, I'm not saying, like, the other art forms don't make, some deep statements, they do. Well, I don't know, to me, I think film, in my opinion, is a great amalgamation of all of them, where you get to really take, a new side and really see it from a different perspective. I don't know. That's what I really want to. That's what I'm trying to say. I love cinematography. I think that it's amazing. Kind of how they pull everything in that one shot, and it's supposed to tell such an amazing story. Obviously, I put animation here. It's kind of just like watching an animated film. Then yes, there is cinematography, but it's more of an animated side. Like you're watching, I don't know, Wally, then yeah, like there's a lot like you can just take a shot and like that. Yes, that's cinematography, but it's also animated. It's not like a real robot. You know, Still, I do want to talk about. I do want to give praise to those people that are working on the animation side. Like, hey, they came up with a really cool, design here, or they came up with they drew like a really nice backdrop, stuff like that. Or in the Spider Verse movies, they bring together all of these amazing animation styles, and they make it work. Something that shouldn't, uniquely work does, and I think that's something that should be talked about. All right, next is CGI, SFX, and VFX. Now, sometimes CGI is a hot topic issue. People are like, "Oh, the CGI was bad," or that CGI is really good. People always talk about now that CGI is worse now than it was back then. There's so many things that you can talk about on why that is. I'm not gonna talk about it, but, that is a major thing in film now, so, like, when you watch it, you're like, "Oh, the CGI is kinda weird," or "The CGI is really good," and when I'm reviewing this, that I will talk about that. Now, I'm not gonna be like, "Oh, CGI was ass." I will probably say something like along the lines of, "That CGI wasn't as good in relation to other parts of the film where it really it really shined," or, like, "Maybe this was the only shot with CGI," and I'm kind of, like kinda wondering, like, why wasn't the CGI there, a lot better than it could have been, if that's the only moment they have CGI, then why wasn't it that good? Now, obviously, there's other factors like money, all that other stuff, or, like, time, they had to work on that, but that's a whole another topic, and that goes case to case, Not every movie's the same, they're not made the same way, but yeah. And then SFX, I think sound effects and VFX, um, are just such another great part, like, they're kinda, like, not really talked about that much, but they should get talked about also. And I don't have it on here, but I also talk about stunt work a lot of time. I talked about that in the Punisher review. I was like, I think the stunt work in the Punisher was amazing. Like he got to go from marine tactics to just Punisher going ape shit. He can do like his cool like little you know around the wall shooting or like hiding behind like the lower part of the wall, but like he switches up into like an absolute bear when he just goes ham stabbing people. Or, like, I think Tom Cruise and everybody that works on Mission Impossible or Top Gun, they do like Top Gun Maverick. They did such an amazing job, like, bringing that to life, especially the most recent Mission Impossible. Like, Tom Cruise goes that next level, like, he's he's insane, like, in a crazy way, like, in a good way. But, yeah, I think that should be talked about. The fact that it just got added to the Oscar recently, like, why did it take that long for stunt work to get added? They do some, like, crazy things and, like, they never get talked about, It's always like, "Oh, the actor did such an amazing good job on there." Okay, what about the stunt guy? Like, the actor probably didn't do that, there are actors that do that, so, like, kudos to them, but, like, those stunt guys are, like, literally falling from, like, that great height or, they're literally running through that wall, stuff like that, and so, like and there's really cool stunts sometimes in movies, because it's a visual art form, that like, that's where you show that, like, maybe you can't show a crazy stunt in a book, but obviously you can write about it and say it, but on a movie, you can show it, and you're kinda just like, you're probably in awe. You're like, that was a crazy stunt." I like to talk about stunts. Next is music. I think music and film, like, really, like I would say is in the top 3. I think it goes writing, cinematography, and music. And that's just how that's how I see it. Everybody sees it differently, but I think a music, like, kinda like is like that bow tie on a present, you know? You bring all these things together, and you wrap it together, like, the tie, and you're like, "Wow," you know? That music was amazing, like, I think John Williams does an amazing job, or I forget what his name is. Let me look up his name, I don't wanna, you know, do really bad, but he's the guy that worked on Sinners, Black Panther, what else did he work on? Oppenheimer, he's a great composer, but let's see what his name is. Okay, Ludwig Göransson. I don't know if I mispronounced that. Sorry if I did, but he's an amazing composer. Same with John Williams or Alvin Silverstein. Like they are all like amazing composers, and they like able to like make you feel something in that scene. You know, on top of like what the actor and the director and are doing and the writing, but like. That music, like it gets you excited, you know, if you're like watching Superman, or it makes you sad if you're watching like I don't know, Notebook, you know, like, it adds that extra oomph, like, that I was talking about, you know, like, the actors are doing their thing, the writers are doing their thing, you know, the director's doing their thing, but the composers, they're doing their thing too, and you would actively feel it because that's what you're supposed to do in a movie, you're supposed to feel, you know? And, like, this is, like, I don't know, it just brings something out of you, like, you can connect, you know, and I really like that. Next is costumes and production design. I think costumes are amazing. I think those are underutilized a lot. Now they do get Oscars, so, like, you know, kudos to them. You know, like timepieces, they always do really good at making, costumes like superhero movies, especially more modern superhero movies. And they do a really good job at bringing a superhero costume to life, you know? Maybe not a leather X-Men, but, you know, Spider-Man Brand New Day, really nice costume, like, really, really great costume, and I love that they were able to bring that to life. Or, um, Superman with the new movie with David Cornsweet and James Gunn. That's a really nice costume, you know, like, Superman is just a guy in tights, but, like, in that movie, that's an amazing movie. I mean, amazing costume. Or Napoleon with, the one that came out on Apple TV with Joaquin Phoenix, like, that's a timepiece. Those suits look amazing, you know? Like, there's so much going on. And then production design, I think a lot of sets are actually, like, really cool, whether that be, like, miniatures, stop motion, real life sets that are, like, really nice. Like, there's so many things in film that are so amazing and just, like, they, like they're really just they bring the movie to life, you know? They bring that script to life. They make you like they like literally pull you in visually, you know, maybe with your ears and the music, the acting, you know, maybe Andrew Garfield is doing a scene that you like really resonate with, you know, like I've been there, you know, I've lost somebody before. You know, all that just like you're like, oh my God, you know? And then I don't know if I talked about these two. I think I did. Acting, obviously, it's kind of like give or take. Oh, yeah, I did talk about that. Yeah. And then aesthetic, you know, like what how does this movie like how does this movie look, you know? Like beyond just like cinematography wise. You know, like is this a cool sci-fi film, you know, or is this like a new sci-fi film, you know? Like maybe it's kind of like breaking those boundaries, you know? Like, you know, two sci-fi films, Blade Runner and Star Wars, both sci-fi. They're not the same, but they're in the same genre kind of, right? Obviously one's kind of dystopian, one's kind of like how would I say it? Like fantasy, but still, like they're still kind of in the same genre in a sense. And you're like, well, how how does this one make me feel? How does this one look? You know, stuff like that. And those are kind of like how my reviews go. And obviously, I kind of like morph it together. I put a concluding sentence and then like, nonetheless, those are a good film. You know, if you're a Spider-Man film, go check out this film. If you're like an Andrew Garfield film, go check out this film. You know, stuff like that. But yeah, that's how I do my movie reviews like on Letterbox. And if you're like, oh, what's your Letterbox? This is my Letterbox right here. Blue Samurai, kind of like my YouTube channel. These are my top four movies as of right now. Obviously, this is not Spider-Man one, but I think this is the best superhero film. This is my favorite, like actual, like non-superhero film. La La Land. There's so much about it. Hamnet. I love Shakespeare. I just saw this recently, like last few months. Amazing film. And then The Dark Knight, such an amazing film. Here are the last couple things I saw. But yeah, if you're ever like, oh, you know, maybe you don't want to go watch my review, but you want to read it, go check out my letterbox. Like that's here. It's actually in the link in bio for the YouTube channel. So if you're ever like, oh, where's the letterbox? It's on the channel. You can check it out. But yes, and also on here, like I do a bunch of other stuff. Like obviously I always review what's going on. What else we got? Kind of like what I decide to watch or like what's going to be a review is like what's in my watch list, or like maybe like for example, Supergirl's coming up soon. Well, I'm gonna watch the new Superman movie because I want to get excited for the Supergirl movie. Like obviously you don't have to, but I choose to. I want to know what's gonna, maybe something that showed up in Superman is gonna show up in Supergirl. So I kind of get it ready. And now, obviously, like as the channel gets bigger and we've reviewed stuff before, then like we're not gonna review that again. Maybe we might, but we probably won't until maybe down the road because like we're like starting the channel, so like there's so much stuff that we need to review. Like we're gonna review all the Marvel movies eventually. We're gonna review all the Star Wars movies eventually. We're gonna review all the DC movies. We're gonna review all the anime movies, Studio Ghibli. Outside of Studio Ghibli, we're gonna review a bunch of '80s movies because I love '80s movies. Those are stuff that I love. I want to watch all the Star Trek. We're gonna talk about that. And then we got to talk about all the shows and miniseries, stuff like that. There's all sorts of stuff that we got going. So, yeah, yeah. So usually, this is kind of like the off. This is the okay, lovely. This is like kind of how we are going to be doing it from like the earliest I added it, moving down to the latest. Because like if I added it earlier, then that means I want to watch it and get it out of the way. And then as I go down, I'll watch some of my other stuff. Like I'm not going to watch War Games first. Now, let's say Batman is down here, we haven't got to it by next time next year, which I would hope not, but, for the sake of the argument, well, then obviously before the sequel comes out, we're gonna be watching the new one. But yeah, this is kinda like, what am I gonna watch next? Or maybe sometimes I just, like, wanna watch a movie and I'm like, "Oh, put this on." Well, that's what I'll review next. I don't know kind of like what it's gonna look like week to week. I don't know if it's gonna be like 1 film or like 3 films, 12 film, like, yeah, obviously not 12 films, but I don't know, cause I'm in school, I'm working, I'm doing this, and I'm streaming, so we'll see. Right now, I'm just trying to get all my videos out. So obviously, this introduction video is gonna be a lot longer than normal videos, and I think most videos might be like an hour to like an hour and a half. So like, might be too long for you guys. Let me know. But we're talking about a lot, so and I'll get into it in a minute, like how the actual review is gonna look. So you don't actually have to watch the full thing. Like I would love if you did. But, if you're looking for, like, a spoiler-free section, like, I have that. That's gonna be at the beginning, and then if you wanna come back later, you know, and watch the spoiler section, then you can. Yeah. But, yeah, so, like, I don't know what it's gonna look like. As of right now, there's, like, 5 films that I need to make, like, actual videos on. So but then after that, we can be kinda caught up, and then we have room during the week to, do my streams, do my homework, do my movie reviews, stuff like that. Because with the reviews, it's not just I watch it and then I talk about it. Like gotta watch it, gotta type it up, put it on Letterbox, and then make the video. There's a lot of time that's going into that. Next is my list. So if you guys ever watch these, I think they're all public. Like I don't think any of these are private. But basically, I kind of just break it down, obviously, into my favorite films, which there's not a lot here because I haven't reviewed it a lot because I literally started this in February, or I restarted in February because when I said I started it initially as a kid in, middle school or whatever, I was putting the Google reviews. Well, then I stopped because like I don't know, I just stopped for some reason, and then I was like, okay, well, like what's the point anymore? Like the whole point was me to track the movies I've been watching. Well, then I went the whole time without tracking them, and I can't go back and remember all those movies that I watched. And I was just kind of like, there's no point. Well, then I came back. Well, then I made a new account. This is my new account. I have no idea what the old account is called, but obviously all the movies I've watched during my lifetime are not on this account. So, these lists are kind of small, you know. But yeah, even some of the things I have reviewed on my letterbox, I have not made YouTube videos on it, obviously. So we'll go back and you'll see these lists will get longer. They're kind of small right now. Favorite films. I don't like just 4 films. I love hundreds of films. But yeah, and then obviously all of my like lists have kind of like descriptions, like all my favorite films I'll cherish for the rest of my life. So I love all of these films. And if obviously a film's not on here, that doesn't mean I don't love it. It just probably means I haven't seen it. And then I kind of break it down into like maybe franchise Star Wars films. Like I just kind of put this one in here because I love because I needed a film. I had not watched Star Wars Mandalorian Grogu yet, and I needed a movie to like make the list. So this is in here, Revenge of the Sith. Even though I haven't seen it yet, and I'm like in a fat minute, I haven't reviewed it. I haven't seen it to review it. Like I've seen it multiple times, but I just saw Mandalorian Grogu. That was a great film. But I haven't seen Revenge of the Sith, and obviously we're gonna review that on the channel eventually. But then I'll have my review, and then I'll start putting other movies on here, but that's why it's kinda, like, empty. or like great sci-fi films. Now, these genre kind of like lists are kind of something where like it's a personal like opinion. Obviously, all these lists are personal opinions. All these reviews are personal opinions. But like it to me, it's like, does this movie like obviously make a good genre film, or does that kind of like genre breaking? Like I think Akira is like a staple sci-fi film, but it also does a lot that's kind of outside the norm of that time. Or like Blade Runner, they're both great films. They're different films, but they're great films. Project Hail Mary, it's not the generic, we're going to space movie. It says a lot more than just that. So like that's the next review. So I don't want to go too in depth with it. And then obviously, like my great films, these aren't personal, but just great films in general. Like maybe you're watching my videos like I don't know, a few years, and you're like, oh, what are some good films that Josh likes? You go here and you're like, oh, okay, maybe you can clone the list. I don't know. This could be your watch list tonight. I know you're like, why is Wuthering Heights there? Personally, I like the film. Never read the book, and that's not what you should be reviewing the movie on. I mean, you can if you want, but to me, I watch the film for the film. Obviously, I love superheroes and comics. I'd love to see something adapted into a film. But maybe if they don't do like the best adaptation, well then I should still not judge that in the film. If the film was making something work, you know, if they're adapting it or if they're telling their own story, which Wuthering Heights was doing, they were telling their own story. That's why there's um what's it called? Quotation marks around the title because it's not Wuthering Heights. They're not adapting the film one for one. They're making their own story. So that's another thing. I don't really understand when people are hating on the movie. Obviously, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and there were some kind of moments where you're kind of like what's going on here? But to me, like for what they are trying to tell in their story in their movie, I liked it. If you're watching a superhero film and it's on Civil War, obviously it's not the same as the comic. They're telling their own story. I like the movie. I like the comic. I like them for what they're each trying to tell on them on their own. I'm not. I don't like. Oh, why was the Punisher not in Civil War? Why did we not get that famous scene where he's holding Spider-Man? Because that's not what the film was trying to tell. The movie was trying to tell their own thing. So that's kind of like another reason. But yeah, like I said, these are all personal opinion based. So if you want to, like to me, I think these are good films in like film history. I don't know why I kind of wrote that. I don't think Wuthering Heights is gonna like break film history, but I do think these are really good films. Obviously, I'm gonna have to be all end all. Like you have your own opinion. And they kind of have like other films. Like I think these are like some great black films. I actually didn't know when I first watched scary films that it was a black made film. So I thought that was really cool. Really awesome. Hidden Figures, amazing film. Amazing film. Definitely check it out. Basically all genres. Obviously another DC. What is it called? Franchise. I'm surprised I don't have a Marvel list in here. Oh, yeah, I do. MCU. Here we go. And then you're like, Josh, Sam Raimi is not MCU. The moment, okay, I'm just gonna say this now because I'll say this in my other review videos. The moment that you see a character in an MCU film like Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, who was in Far From Home, or sorry, No Way Home, that is canon to the MCU now. That's how I see it. If you see it another way, you're interpreting your own opinion, but that's how I see it. Like Deadpool Wolverine, you saw Elektra from her film. You saw Logan X-23 from her film, like Laura. You saw Blade, Wesley Snipes from his film. They're in the MCU now, so that means their movies are canon. So that's how I see it. Obviously, I kind of like have my own timeline. I don't know where it is right now. It's online. It's on Google Docs. I'll pull it up maybe in another video. But excuse me. I see this as canon, so that's my opinion, obviously. But yeah, if you have like a list that you like want me to make, then let me know. Like in the comments, I'll definitely try to make it. That way, you guys can just go check it out in my letterbox. But like I said, this is my letterbox channel. If you guys are ever interested, just so you know, so you know it's me. Yeah, and like I said, it's in the link in bio. But yeah, those are where my reviews are. If you don't watch my videos, they're in there. Got all my lists in there. I'm pretty sure they're all public. But yeah, I think that's basically all there is about Letterboxd. All right, so now about the actual review. How is the video actually going to look for us? Like what is the review video going to look like? All right, so review video is going to be in two parts. Obviously, the review, I'm going to be taking my Letterboxd review, putting that in here. But the actual movie review on YouTube is going to be in two parts. The first part is gonna be spoiler free. That is something I really liked about 3C Films. The fact that he was able to make spoiler free films. But I also wish obviously for some movies he does make like spoiler movies, like spoiler talking movies. Now, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have a section that is spoiler free that maybe you can come watch and be like, oh, okay, let's see what Sunflower Films has to say about, I don't know, Mortal Kombat 2, and I can come back and see what he actually says once I watched it about like the rest of the film. So basically, the spoiler free section is gonna be the first part you see of the video. Now, when I make these videos, I will go down in here and I don't know how it works yet, but I will break it in like the video into segments. Like, have you ever like seen those YouTube videos where like the bar? I don't know what the bar is called, but like the runtime bar, we'll give it that name. I was broken up into parts. You get intro, ad, I don't know, Easter eggs, stuff like that, theories and all that are broken down. That's I'll try to do that on here. Now, it might be a lot really time consuming, especially in the beginning right now, but we'll definitely be working on I'll definitely try to get that going eventually. So, like I said, spoiler free section. So, spoiler free, we're gonna open up and it's gonna be brief intro in my own words. So I'm not gonna sit here and be like, okay, A, B, C, D all happens in the film. Like that's later. Today this one I'd probably just be like, We Live in Time. We're talking about We Live in Time. We Live in Time is about two actors. Sorry, it's about two characters. I don't know the names at the moment, but that's a great film. I love that film. Um, basically, it's let's say actor A and B because I don't remember their names. It's a film where actor A and B meet each other, but it's set through three different parts of their life: when they meet each other, when they get married, and then when they have a kid. And basically, it's telling their love story until one of them sadly passes away. Now, I think that might be a spoiler, but obviously in this part, I would not say any spoilers. So, probably would not add that in there. But basically, I'd just be like, this is the film between these two characters. It's split up into three parts of their life, like I said, and they're kind of just you're telling a story. Kind of just put in a brief little intro about the movie, kind of synopsis, real quick, and then I'll start getting into more depth. I'll be like, okay, in this film, we got Andrew Garfield, we got Florence Pugh, great actor and actress, amazing. And I'll be like, this one is directed by, I don't know, my movie poster up here just says the director of Brooklyn. So, director is so and so, and then I'll kind of like acknowledge some things, like maybe like, obviously this is not true. Like maybe this Andrew Garfield's breakout film, maybe he just been doing Broadway beforehand or maybe this is his first Marvel movie, stuff like that, or let's say I don't know. Oh, another example is like the director, like we are talking about Kane Parsons. This is his first actual feature film that's being made by a production company, like a huge movie studio. He worked on YouTube before, and we'd be like, okay, this is the director, this is his first film, or maybe the guy like from Session, that's his first film. Going from YouTube to like actual like feature length films from a production company, like a studio. Like I want to talk about that. Um, we'll talk about stuff like that. Also, the actors, actresses. And then next part will kind of be like any current news that is relevant at that time. Obviously, I'm not gonna say something like, people are hating on this movie. That's for later in the video. This is basically non-biased section, just talking about the film, whether or not you should go watch it. Basically, let's say We Live in Time is doing really well. Say We Live in Time just broke box office records, or actually, let's talk about Spider-Man: Brand New Day because this is actually pretty relevant. Spider-Man: Brand New Day is like the fourth ever most lucrative Marvel movie, I think, to ever get pre-sales. Like obviously it hasn't beaten No Way Home or Endgame, but it's like that's still a pretty big accomplishment. Like I don't know what the sales are for Supergirl, but I would be like, this is the official second movie of the DCU, or like I don't know, what's another movie? Watching, let's say, okay, the Social Network movie, the sequel that's coming out. If we're reviewing that, I'm gonna be like, okay, this is a Social Network. This takes place like the point of like in this movie. I don't know what's happening in the movie, but it's it's following Mark Zuckerberg and to his rise as a tech mogul. Controlling Facebook into the 21st century. I don't know what it's about, like the sequel, but basically like that's what it is. In this movie, it's gonna be not Mark Zuckerberg, Jesse Eisenberg, Andrew Garfield, everybody else, and then it's directed by I don't know who it's directed by. I've never seen The Social Network, but I know I do want to check it out. But basically, that's how that would go. And then any current news, like this is the sequel, or actually, I guess the real sequel. It doesn't have those actors, so I'd be like, the Social Network 2 is a sequel to the first one, even though the actors are different. They don't want to come on to this, stuff like that. Obviously, I wouldn't go into crazy detail because it's supposed to be spoiler free. Or the Backrooms, for example, it's the most profitable A24 film as of right now. It was Murray Supreme, and now it's Backrooms. Those are stuff that should be talked about. Maybe it gets you excited to go see it. Maybe you really love A24 films, or you really love Andrew Garfield, or you really love Kane Parsons from YouTube. Stuff like that. All right, and then lastly, it's gonna be a brief spoiler, no spoil, a brief review, no spoilers. Basically, it'd be like, I really loved We Live in Time. I think Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh did an amazing job acting together. I think they had really great chemistry. I think the director did a good job with the film. Or like Disclosure Day, I think Steven Spielberg was top of the game right there. I think the actors did amazing. Emily Blunt, probably her best standout performance I've seen ever, in my opinion. And like that's not to say like she doesn't do other amazing jobs in other films. I think this, which is the best job she's ever done ever, in my opinion. Or I don't know. What's another film? Or like okay, let's talk about Craven, like a negative film. I don't think Craven was a really great film, but I think there were some good aspects of it that I really liked. Like I think Aaron Taylor Johnson did a good job, for what he was working with. And then possibly in the current news, I'll probably talk about like how many times it was rewritten, or this is probably like the last film of the Sony Spider-Man, cinematic universe, stuff like that. But I'll be like, maybe it wasn't, personally, it wasn't my favorite film of the Sony Spider-Man universe, but I like it's personally a lot better if you've seen Madam Web, stuff like that. Probably not better than Morbius, but it's still a pretty good film. If you like Spider-Man characters, definitely go check it out, stuff like that. You know, and then last part is going to be whether or not you should watch it in theater, streaming, or bargain bin and or skip. So it's gonna be 4 categories. So obviously the first one, obviously I'm a big advocate for watching movies in theaters. I think, the movie industry right now is in a spot where it's not the best, but it's a lot better than where it was, especially coming out of COVID. But, we have streaming. That's a whole other thing. I don't want to talk about that right now. I'll talk about that in another video. But yeah, streaming doesn't help movies, especially like when Superman came out. The whole like, "Oh, let's give it like a month in theaters and like put it right away on streaming." Like, I think that was a bad, move. Most movies have about like what, a month and a half to maybe 2.5 months, like a genuine good movie, like Life in a theater. Obviously, if it's a bigger theater or like if it's summer, movies are being pushed out quicker, or if it's slower, like February, kind of like that slow part of the movie year, then like maybe a movie might stay longer, stuff like that. Or okay, good example for current news topic. So like, maybe let's talk about Top Gun, for example. Like Top Gun stayed in theaters, I know, for like a long time. Or let's say I'm watching a movie. Let's say I'm watching a Studio Ghibli movie, and I just reviewed it, and I was like, okay, this is actually a part of Cinemark's Studio Ghibli Fest. If you're interested, go check out the dates online. Maybe I'll have the dates on hand. Or good example, let's say it's Christmas time and It's a Wonderful Life is back in theaters. Obviously, A Wonderful Life did not just come out, but then maybe that's the current news. Like this is 40th anniversary. I don't know how old the movie is, but stuff like that. Top Gun just had its 40th anniversary. Maybe I'll talk about that there. But yeah, basically when I talk about whether you should go see it in theaters, Top Gun, amazing film, definitely should go see it in theaters. Or Project Hail Mary, an amazing film, you should definitely see it in theaters. Now, let's say it's something I haven't watched or something that's not in theaters anymore, then that's probably maybe something where I can be like, yeah, you should definitely check it on streaming. Or if it ever comes back to theaters, re-release, like Avengers Endgame is being re-released in theaters in September. Definitely go watch it in theaters. It's a great film. Now, if you don't get the opportunity to, definitely check it out on streaming. But now, if it is something that's in theaters, and I'm like, okay, maybe you should like save your money because I do understand that movie theaters are kind of expensive right now. Not everybody has that type of money. I don't even have that type of money. Then yeah, definitely save it for streaming. Like I want to go see Masters of the Universe. Maybe I don't have the money. Maybe I'll wait till streaming. Now, probably won't. But I understand that people, aren't like me. They don't get the opportunity to, go see a movie like every weekend. They have families, they have bills that they got to pay. And they have a car payment, they have insurance, stuff like that. So I'll maybe be like, after watching this, after I do my whole review, I'd be like, this is a really good film. Definitely don't go think you should go. I definitely think you should go see it in theaters. But maybe if you don't want to go see it right away, or maybe something's coming out next week. Like obviously, for example, Dune is not coming out next week, but let's say for it is, you know, I'll be like, yeah, go check out Dune first, or I'll probably be like, wait, I'll probably go see Masters of the Universe on streaming, and if you really want to go see a movie this one, I'll probably go see Dune. That's probably something I'll say. Or Craven. Let's go back to Craven. I would not suggest you go see that in theaters. Streaming, like, do you really want to waste 2 hours on Craven? I don't know. I saw it in theaters, but that's because it was cheap at the time. So I don't know. Streaming? I don't even know if I would offer somebody to go see Craven on streaming. I don't know. I would definitely go say check it out on bargain bin. Like if you're paying $12 a month to go see Craven, I don't know. But yeah, if you really have streaming, you want to go see Craven, go ahead. Like I don't care. But bargain bin basically like bottom of the barrel. Like if you're at movie trading company, it's $3. Maybe you should check it out. Like I wouldn't even suggest Flash for bargain bin. I would suggest Skip for for Flash. But like I said, I don't really hate movies that much, so like I'd probably be more like talking about theaters and streaming than I do bargain bin. Like bargain bin's like really like low totem pole. Like I don't know a film I would suggest at bargain bin. Like I would suggest Valentine's Day on streaming. Like obviously it's not in theaters anymore, but I definitely suggest go check it out. Um, Now Skip, again, never really hate a film. I never really hate a film. Flash, I'd probably say Skip. Like that's just a joke. I don't know. Personally, I never want to watch it again. I probably will just to review it on here, but I think there's a lot of issues with it. I'd probably say like bargain bin, like honest take. Probably don't check it out on streaming. I mean, see, like that's the thing. You can't just be like theaters and bargain bin because streaming. Everybody has a streaming network now, streaming service. So like you can just go check out the film like low cost. You're paying same $12 a month. You get all hundreds of movies. So it's kind of hard to say, but yeah, basically these are the four like big things that we'll talk about at the end, and I'll be like, yeah, go see the film. You know, don't go see the film. Whatever. And then basically, once we get past this, we're gonna get into spoiler section. So like I said, I'll in the video, I'll be like, okay, guys, we're about to go into spoiler review. So if you have not seen the film or you don't want to hear any spoilers, hop off. But yeah, and maybe once you've seen it, come back. I'll probably say something like that, and I'll probably be like, spoiler warning. Like we're about to talk about Project Hail Mary or the Batman, something like that. So and like that, so I have it in all caps. Spoiler warning. That way you can't be like, Josh, why'd you spoil the movie? I said it multiple times. But yeah. So if you're ever like gonna come watch a review video of mine, do know there is a spoiler free section and then there's a spoiler section. So definitely, definitely check that out. Like I would love you guys to watch the whole video, but you know, I don't want you being spoiled. Like I hate people getting spoiled. I hate when I got movies spoiled for me. So I understand. I understand. But as of there, that is the spoiler free section. Now we're gonna go into the spoiler section. So obviously, like I said, we're doing a spoiler warning. Like, hey, one last time, like if you have not seen this film or if you don't want a spoiler, turn back. And then we're gonna have a much more detailed review of the story. So this is probably where I go like, A, B, C, D, E. Like I'll probably go through the events of the story as opposed to like where I did my brief intro, like Punisher. This is the short story about Frank Castle finding out his new identity as Punisher and what it means to be, a new Punisher, not just a revenge blood Punisher. Here, I'll be like, okay, well, the film opens up in New York, or I don't know what city. I'm just gonna say New York. In New York, and Frank is struggling. We start up in his apartment. He just finished killing all the new cheese. See, like I'm going a lot more in depth. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go here. And obviously, as the film is shorter and longer, this part's gonna be a lot longer. Like Punisher One Last Kill is an hour length. It's like literally 50 minutes. It's pretty small. Now, if we're talking about Oppenheimer, like that's 3 hours. So obviously, it's gonna range. Obviously, I don't have like the craziest memory. Like I don't have a identical memory. So, if I get this part, mixed up with that part, I'll probably like catch up. I'll probably catch myself, but like, if I miss like, this one tiny little detail, like I don't know, somebody went to go, eat this one food real quick, I might miss it. But for the most part, I'm gonna try to get all the good like major parts that are in the movie, and then I'll start getting into my my review like I talk about. Then we'll get into themes and then character. I don't know why it says razor. So it's gonna be themes, meaning, metaphors, characters, writing. Okay, really. Writing, pacing, stuff like that. Then we'll get into production, like we talked about in the review. And then, okay, next part we're gonna talk about any possible plot holes or unanswered threads and or potential tie-ins, spin-offs. So basically, if we're watching a film and I'm like, yeah, I don't really understand how character A and character B got to place two. How did they get to act two? This felt like the thumb drive that they were needing just magically appeared there. Obviously that could be like talked about something in story, but like this is kind of mostly like a pro thing that I'm talking about. Obviously if there's bad things, I'm gonna talk about it here. But basically, here is kind of like where like any like extra stuff that I want to talk about. Like maybe it's a story beat that didn't get, like, mentioned or maybe they brought up, and they never really talked about it again. Because here, I'm basically going off a letterbox and anything else that I wanna talk about. Like, I'm not gonna go just word for word off my letterbox review. I'm gonna say stuff, and I'm gonna sit here, talk about it more, I'm a yap. But here, maybe it's something I missed up here, or maybe something that, like, I didn't really put in my review, I'll probably put here. Like, for example, Backrooms, Async, spoiler, obviously. Async is the company that made the Backrooms. I'll probably be like, like, I'm not gonna, like, I'll probably make a comment about it in the writing, be like, I wish there's more stuff we talked about, maybe, about the backstory of the therapist. I don't remember her name right now. But yeah, that, and I'll be like, we should talk about Async more. And then probably here, I'll probably talk about some plot holes, like, um, you know, like why was async so like I don't know. It's hard to describe like in a very like non-spoiler slash like broad topic. See, every film's different. But basically, any plot holes or unanswered threads, like I said, like this didn't really make sense, or like why was this kind of just left alone, or like maybe this seemed like too easy, stuff like that. Or potential tie-ins and spin-offs. This is kind of like for more like franchise movies, like for example, Supergirl. As we're watching it, like maybe there's a cool character that showed up, like Lobo, and like in the movie, it made you seem like Lobo, and like maybe there's a credit scene too. Like that could also be here. So let me add that in here too. There we go, post credit scenes. So like, maybe we're watching Supergirl. Like obviously Supergirl's not come out yet, but Lobo's in the movie. I'll be like, Lobo. The most Lobo post credit scene was like really cool. I liked how character A. I don't know like any Lobo characters. I liked how Lobo showed up. Like this Lobo character A showed up, and I think that'd be like maybe they're just trying to tie in this film, but it's gonna come in later down the road. Or for maybe for some reason there's a Clayface Easter egg in the movie, and I'm like, yeah, I really want to see where this goes. Obviously that's what this is gonna be about. Now, I do know that James Gunn said that each movie is not gonna have, like, tie-in Easter eggs, it's basically just gonna be, like, little funny things that kinda, like, add into the different movies, stuff like that, but, Marvel movies are not like that. They're supposed to stuff that are supposed to tie in, so when we talk about Spider-Man: Brand New Day, I'll be like, "Oh my god, the Easter egg for, Doomsday is like" like, maybe we see Doomsday, like Robert Downey Jr., and I'm like, I lose my mind. But yeah, we'll talk about stuff like that. Um Yeah, it's got like a broad section, so if you're kinda like, "What?" Oh, also here, we're gonna talk about theories. Let me put that here. So, like okay, Loki just stuck its typing. Wow. There we go. Alright, so, like, going back to the backrooms, like, async, like, do I think the therapist actually escaped the backrooms at the end of the movie? Like, I don't know, I watched it the second time, and first time I didn't think so. Second time, I do think so, but I think there's a lot more going on. Like, that's what I'm kinda talking about, like, any possible plot holes or unanswered threads, like, there's a lot going on with async in the film that they didn't talk about, but in terms of writing, I think it, was beneficial, Like, I think, if they probably talk about async, they would've been tackling too much, maybe maybe bog down the film, but there's still things in the movie that I would love to see talks about in the sequel. That's kind of like where you get into tie-ins or spin-offs. Like it doesn't always need to be a sequel. Sorry, a post-credit scene or stuff like that. But there's stuff in the movie that maybe didn't get fully explained or stuff like that that I do want to talk about. Maybe there is some cool theories that I do want to talk about. Maybe it's an open-ended movie where it lets you choose. Stuff like that. But yeah, that this is kind of like a catch-all from right here. But yeah, for like from the review part, like this catch all. But yeah, next is gonna be public perception versus personal perception. So like In the instance of Wuthering Heights, like, I know a lot of people didn't like it. I know some people did, but I know a lot of people didn't like it. So, I'll probably talk about that, probably at the current time, something like, I don't know, Avengers Doomsday, let's say it does really well, or actually, let's talk about Fantastic Four first steps. I know a lot of people actually didn't really care for it. I really liked it. I think it did, like, really well. Now, it wasn't like Doomsday, or it's not Doomsday, Endgame and Infinity War level, but I still think it was, like, a really great film. But yeah, so I'll talk about public perception. Now, obviously, if me and the public have the same opinion, like, it's not gonna be, like, that long of a talk. I'm like, "Yeah, a lot of people really liked the film. I really liked it." Now, probably I'll talk about, like, maybe I didn't like it as much as everybody else, or maybe I liked it a lot more than everybody else, then I'll probably talk about that maybe a little more in depth. Probably not too much. It's like that's what I've been talking about the whole review. And obviously all these things are gonna tie in all the time, like writing and, pacing is probably gonna come into plot holes and, spin-offs and stuff like that. Public perception is probably gonna come in like, I don't wanna talk about it too much, here, like, in the news section, but, like, maybe something like writing, there's a writing aspect in the movie that people didn't like, and that's why people don't like it. I'll probably talk about that here, and then when I come back, I'll be like, "Yeah, that, like, really, like, messed up the film." Or, like, Marty Supreme, that was, like, a really popular film, maybe it doesn't fall into here, and I'll talk about, like, the money that was spent on advertising, people really liked it, like, the pool to go see the film was, like, really huge. I've never seen Marty Supreme, I do want to, but I've never seen it. But yeah, maybe let's say I have seen it, or actually Avatar. Avatar 3 is a good example. A lot of people like liked it or like didn't like it because they say Avatar films are repetitive, which they are. But I actually really liked Avatar 3. I think that's my favorite film out of the three. Like I love all the Avatar films, but I loved Avatar 3 like the most. Like, I really liked it. I really want to see where it goes next. And then maybe like jumping off of that, I kind of go back here, potential tie-ins and spin-offs. Like maybe I don't know. These are all kind of like morphed together. Like they kind of like talk. Like I'll just kind of like go from A to B to C. And I won't directly be like, okay, guys, we are now moving on to the public reception part. I'll be like, there, like, what was Quartridge or whatever his name is, the villain, like the military guy who became an Avatar in Avatar 2. I'll be like, yeah, he didn't die in the sequel, but in the third movie he falls, but does he really die? And I'll be like, talk about public reception, I'll be like, a lot of people didn't really care for it, but I really liked the movie. Now moving forward, I do want to see, Avatar 4. Obviously that's a tie-in, but I'm still like talking here. I liked it, but I want to see another film. Or what was another film I just saw recently? Backroom. Everybody wants to see a sequel to Backrooms. Um, Disclosure Day. I thought that was a really good film. I know a lot of people didn't care for it. There's not really sequel potential there. What am I trying to say? What's another good movie? Okay, let's talk about Toy Story. I haven't seen Toy Story yet, but let's say maybe a lot of people liked it and they want to see another film, but I don't want to see another film. Maybe I'm like, okay, the story kind of should have ended here, stuff like that. Basically, like I said, these all move together. Next thing is going to be longevity of the film. So for this one, it's going to be like, in my opinion, obviously all this is in my opinion. Obviously, there's some things that are not going to be in my opinion. Like, how would my opinion of public opinion like work? Like that's the public's opinion. And when I say public opinion, I do not mean movie critics. I mean like actual people. Like I do understand that there's a difference. Like movie critics like are rating something a lot different than like the average viewer. So like when I say public reception, I mean like the average people. I don't mean movie critics. Now I might address movie critics in my review. I might like be like, yeah, I don't know. Super got like an 89 on Rotten Tomatoes, like critic review, but it has a 37 on public, the fan review. I don't know what it's called. It's the popcorn one. I'll talk about that, but most of the time when I talk public reception, I mean like like the like the actual person that watches, like the average person. I don't mean Joe Schmo from like New York Times. Like I don't care what they say. Like movies are made for the masses. They're not made for Oh yes, I really like that film, and you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. But yeah, longevity of the film, in my opinion. Now, this is where I see the movie going forward. Like, this is where I see the movie being going forward. Will it be in my collection, or other people's collection? Will it be a streaming legend? Will it be something that maybe people don't go see in theaters, but does grow legs and creates a second life on streaming? Like I don't know. What was a really good streaming film? Uh, let's say Thunderbolts, for example. I don't know if it was or not. Like a lot of people didn't go see Thunderbolts in theaters, but it was a good film, and obviously, I think it'll be added to a lot of people's collection. But I do think that it could be like a really big streaming movie. Now, it's kind of like counterproductive. I'm trying to think of a good streaming movie. Um, I don't know. You get what I'm saying. Like, there's collection that I think everybody will have in their collection. I think some like maybe if you don't have it in collection, it'll be like a great streaming movie. Like in the sense that like, you're gonna go back and watch it, Some like maybe Pearl Harbor, everybody like people don't want to buy Pearl Harbor, but maybe they go watch it on streaming every time it's there, something like that. Or Karate Kid, stuff like that. Niche favorite. So this one's kind of going more off of like going down. Like maybe everybody doesn't want it in their collection. Not everybody's gonna go check it out on streaming, every now and then. But that fan base loves the film, Edward Norton films. They're either smash hits or they're niche favorites, or Isle of Dogs. That wasn't the biggest, greatest film, but a lot of people like it. Like those fans like Isle of Dogs. Or like Asteroid City. I don't think that's gonna be a lot of people's collection. I don't think it's gonna be a streaming legend. I think it will be a niche favorite. Now I think like Box Trolls, a niche favorite. I'm trying to think of is it Fantastic Mr. Fox? I don't think like personally that would be in my collection. Now for a lot of people, I think it'll be a streaming legend movie because I think that's a lot of people like that's a good film that people like when they see it on streaming like, oh, I'll check it out. Or I love this movie, I'm gonna check it out again on streaming. I don't think it's that niche that a lot of people don't check it out. Or stuff like that. And then last one will be Forgotten. There's hundreds of thousands of millions of thousands of movies out there. There's bound to be forgotten. We only kind of like talk about the movie that come out in this year. Get released now. Obviously, we're gonna talk about movies that I watched, that aren't coming out this year. We're gonna review Primate, as you saw, it's on the watch list, but that came out last year. Now, I haven't seen it yet, but do I think Primate will be forgotten? Moving on. Like, if it's not in somebody's collection, if it's not a streaming legend, and if it's not a niche favorite, what do I think is gonna happen? Um, to Primate. I don't know. I think it might be a niche favorite, animal horror films, but something like I don't know. I think it's some like a movie that like people might forget. I don't know. Like forgotten means something like obviously it didn't help a lot of people. Like honestly, like I'm trying to think of like everybody's like kind of a fan of a movie, but like there's things out there where people just like they don't watch it anymore. So like people just kind of forget about it. And like that obviously doesn't always mean it's like a bad film, but like here it does mean like that. At least to me. Like what is a bad film? Shit. Ba-ba-ba-ba-bum. Like this would be like if somebody said it, you're like, oh shit, like that's I forgot about that movie. What's a genuine? Oh, Whistle. Yes, I forgot who's in the movie. I think the actress that plays uh Laura from Logan and in Deadpool and Wolverine. Guys, Whistle is not a niche favorite. It is definitely not a streaming legend, and because I think it's the South American Death Whistle. I think is what it's called. Um, it's definitely not going in anybody's collection. That movie's gonna be gone to the what's it called? The echoes of space and time. Like that, I completely forgot about that movie. The only reason I remembered it is because I have a poster of it over there. But like, yeah, no, that that movie's being just forgotten instantly. Like there's no way that movie has a niche following at all. Like no, like nah. But yeah, no, that's kind of what this part about the longevity of the film is gonna mean. And then last thing is me favorite shot, scene, and quote. So you might be like, okay, so Josh, this is going on way too long. Obviously, like I said, you don't have to watch the whole video. I would like it if you do, but this is kind of like going into more of like my thing about the movie. These are my reviews, things that stand out to me. Now, obviously, I'm making these things for you guys, but I can't stop myself from when I'm watching these movies thinking about these things. And when I think about these things, this comes into my head. Favorite shots. You're stopping the film at any time. Which one like really says the whole story, And then scene, if I were to start the movie at this time and end it at this time, like which one like means the most to me, like if I'm watching it and I played it, I'm like, yeah, like if I could take a scene from every movie and the rest of the movie disappears, like I would be happy with this scene, because like in a shot, you have this working. In a scene, you have this working. Now, in my quote, you have this working, you know? So, or you would probably have this, like, and this working, obviously, but, you know, eat okay, really? And they each got their own thing going on. So, like, obviously, like, at the end of here, like, I'm not trying to sound egotistical, like saying like, "Well, this is my review." I'm just saying, like, at the end, like, I still wanna address these things because like, it's my review, and I still wanna talk about things that I enjoy, and these are things that I enjoy, like, I love saying what my favorite shot is, I love saying what my favorite scene is, I love saying what my favorite quote is, and definitely I wanna hear what you guys's are down below, like, if you're like, "Actually, Josh, seeing Supergirl, I think this was my favorite shot," you know? You should definitely like, what are your thoughts on that shot? I'll definitely tell you below. Like, I definitely want to have that conversation. Or if you're like, actually, I think this quote was better. Maybe you are right. You know, maybe you do have a better quote than I do. Like, I want to hear that. Like, definitely let me know. And I always say in the videos, like, you know, if you didn't agree with me or anything other than like that, you think there was actually a better shot, you know, or if you had a different opinion on directing and stuff like that, let me know. Like, I want to talk about that there. All right. And then last thing will be concluding sentence. This because like this is where we're wrapping it up. Like I knew it was getting a little long, so we're gonna stop here. Now, obviously, there's a million hundred other things we could talk about in the film, you know, everything going on and stuff like that. But we're not gonna be here for hours. Might be here for a hour, but we're not gonna be here for hours. But yeah, no. I don't know if I'm gonna make a Discord yet where you guys can like chat it up on there. I might if we get like you know a bunch of followers stuff like that because you know I'm down for that. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe we just want to stick to YouTube comments or stuff like that. I don't know. We will definitely see. Stay tuned. But yeah, but basically, conclusion sentence is kind of just like at the end of the day, I really liked We Live in Time. I think it was a great film that talked about love. I think Andrew Garfield and um Florence Pugh did an amazing job with each other. You know, it was really sad, stuff like that. And obviously, I could talk about stuff that I couldn't talk about in my intro because you know we're in the spoiler section. And obviously, it's my opinion. And I'll make a statement, and be like, definitely, if you love both this actor and actress, definitely go see this film. If you love A24 films, definitely go see this film. You know, if you love drama films, go see this film, you know, stuff like that. I'll probably do like kind of like a review on all these. I'll be like, I think the writing and directing was amazing. You know, I think the director did a great job. You know, I think this will definitely be something that sticks with people for like, you know, like I actually think We Live in Time will be a streaming legend. Or actually, I think it'll be probably a niche favorite, bordering on streaming legend. Like I have it in my collection because that's me, but I do think this is like a niche favorite. Like I do think a lot of people like who like the film love it, and people who haven't seen it, you know, they have an opinion on it. So that's what I'll say. Like they probably won't, you know, it won't be like that crazy of a streaming legend. But like I said, concluding sentence is basically my final opinion on the film, whether or not you should go. Whether like yeah, it's kind of like a final opinion on the film. Like I don't want to say like it's whether or not you should go see it because that's what this is. But basically, if you watched it, my video until the very end, and you haven't seen the movie, I'll probably say like, yeah, you should definitely go check it out. Cause like maybe you like wanted to hear my opinion on an old movie, and you're like, maybe I should go see it. Like let me hear what Josh has to say, and then you're like, I really like what Josh had to say. Maybe I will go see it, you know, stuff like that. So I probably will say like you should go see it, but mostly if you're really interested in that, like probably stop here, and then if you really don't care about spoilers, come over here, and I'll probably say it again here. Now, last thing is gonna be the scaling of the film. Like the very last thing I'll probably say is this is a great film. Now I will rate it. I'll probably be like, "This is a really good film. Time to rate it." I use my own rating scale, which is called the Joshua scale. Now I know that sounds super egotistical, but it's how I rate things. So it's from 0 to 5 halves included. So 0, 0.5, 1, 2, like 1.5. You know, going on. I never rate anything a 5 because I don't think anything's perfect, and it's very rare that I rate something bad. You know, and when I rate this, you know, if I put something at a 2, I could still say I liked it, but, you know, it's still a 2, you know? Or if it's a 4 and I didn't like it, well, then it's still a 4 and I didn't like it. Like, those 2 don't go together, you know? They can, but they don't always have to, you know? So, that's something I wanna keep in mind. But, yeah, basically, that is the review of how I do my films or will. Obviously, this will change, as I continue to do my reviews, and I'm like, "Oh, this worked." This didn't work, you know, stuff like that. Like stuff is bound to change, you know. We're not gonna stay here all day and be like, you know, do the same thing. You know, if I'm doing these and I feel like something, you know, could be added or taken away, maybe it's taking up too much time, or I feel like I'm not talking about something, I will. Or even if you guys tell me down below, like, hey Josh, you should talk about this, and I definitely will, you know. But yeah, that is reviews. Now, last thing I want to talk about, last portion of the video, I promise we're almost done, is this 5-month promise to myself. So if you're kind of wondering like what this was, remember I said, these channel is gonna be like kind of a documented part of me going back and trying to become a writer slash filmmaker. This is the first part of it. I probably make tons of more videos. We don't know. We'll see. But yeah, as of right now, I have this 5-month problem to myself. So initially, when I created this, it was because I made an intro video for my samurai channel, but I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to make a whole new channel strictly for my film. That way, people don't want to watch my me like crashing out in games. They can just come to a place that's just me talking about films. But yeah, so that's why this date is down here. So time is kind of taking we're almost at a month, and as you can see, there's a lot of openings here. Yeah, so kind of like to procrastinate a lot, but basically, um, how this is working, and I want all of this done by 5 months. So I don't know what this is supposed to be. So I signed this, and okay, let's see. I signed this in May. So one, two, three, four, five. So this can be October 28th is when it should be done. So as you saw, I signed it digital signing. So basically, what I want done by this time is I want to have written two short stories. I want to have a movie idea with an outline. I want to finish reading two film books or writing books. Okay, I don't know what that is. Um, but yeah, so like as I talked about, I'm literally almost done. Like I've I finished this one, and I'm in the middle of this one. So once I finish those, that will be done. I'll probably work on some other stuff. Um, I want to have finished 3 scripts for short films. I want to finish 10 poems. And right here for One Piece time skip, you're like, "That has nothing to do with film or writing." You're right, but I do procrastinate a lot with my reading, so I want to force myself to read more. Like I have a bunch of manga that I haven't read, and so I want to finish. I actually want to get to the time skip, like right after the time skip starts, for the One Piece manga, because I'm trying to finish One Piece before like it ends, which is not going to happen right now, but it will be happening soon. So by October, I want to have got to the time skip for One Piece. And then my extra things are I want to watch at least 20 films with reviews, which I hope will be done by then. And then I want to watch three, I don't know why it says shirt. I want to watch 3 short animes, one season at least. So I'm almost done with one, which is Neon Genesis Evangelion. We might do a review sometime soon, so stay tuned. But yeah, this is my 5-month promise to myself. Like I said, I feel like if I force myself into a corner, then something will get done. That's kind of like what I'm doing here. Obviously, I've been kind of lazy. Also, I kind of chalk this up to like I've been going back and forth on how to do this channel and stuff like that. So once I get these all done, like this should probably get done a lot more quicker. These poems pretty quick. Short stories, you kind of have them already written. Just need to finish some stuff. Short films, pretty easy to write. Manga volume. Oh, I guess I never explained this. This means either writing 8 chapters, like 8 different chapters for a manga, or writing a whole manga volume, which is 8 chapters. So I do want to do that eventually. And then this, like I said, this one's almost done. This is pretty easy. I just haven't done it. This will take a minute. This goes pretty quick, but like I said, I do want to do all of this. Probably moving forward, I will probably keep making these for myself. Obviously, I don't want to come back on these videos and be like, "Yeah, I didn't do it." Like that. Just like I would feel so shitty. You guys would be like, "Oh, come on, Josh, let's go," and you're just like watching it. You're like, right? So, stuff like that. Yeah, like I don't want to make these empty promises to myself or to you or to the guy at Screen Cush. Like what are we doing here, right? Like I wouldn't make these videos of this channel if I didn't want to be successful, and I do. And, not for money, because like I like writing films for people. Like the reason I want to write for film and movies and books and all that is because I want to give people like a medium that they can like read, watch, you name it, and feel the same emotions that I feel. Like feel like they're not alone, like they're not going through, the same stuff that I went through. And I want them to be like, yeah, okay. Sorry, kind of talking in circles here. I want people to be able to experience what I experienced, which was basically watching or reading something and feel like they're not alone. You know, I don't want them to feel like, they're in this endless black hole that they can't escape of. They can escape. It's just gonna take some time. All it takes is, maybe talking or an outlet, let you escape for 2 hours. Like that's what I want my writing and movies and all that to bring to people. I want people to be happy. I think that makes the world a better place, us being nicer people, stuff like that. And I want to reflect that in my writing. Yeah, that was kind of basically that. Real quick, here is my channel. Obviously, if you're watching this, you're at my channel, but for some reason you don't know what my channel is. It's called Sunflower Films. The actual channel, the at is at Sunflower Films underscore studios. So if you're ever curious, you're gonna come here. Obviously, this is gonna be the first video. I'm gonna have playlist for you guys, Marvel playlist, comedy playlist, drama playlist, Star Wars playlist, DC like all sorts of playlists. It's gonna be all customized the more we put out. I have my, like I said, my Letterboxd link here, so that's cool. This channel's gonna be huge, hopefully, in due time. Um, Moving forward, I have no idea what videos are gonna look like. Obviously, like I'm gonna have my reviews, but I mean, like outside of things, I do want to do some other things. Like I do want to have like a thing at least once a week where we at least try to watch like 10 different trailers. Like we're gonna try to be doing that. I don't know what that's called, like Trailer Friday or something like that. I don't know, Trailer Thursday. I really don't know what day it's gonna be. I'm trying to get these first few reviews out. That way we kind of like have the time and not feel like we're kind of like falling back on like stuff. Like that way we're caught up basically. Maybe I'll have like theory videos, outside of normal reviews. I really would like to make a backrooms theory video, or like maybe something like big, like news happens in the film industry. Like let's say Sony's gives the rights back to Spider-Man, gives the Spider-Man rights back to Marvel, which I don't think would ever happen. But let's say it did happen. Well, then I'm gonna make a movie about that. Like, there's no review I could make up really about that. Like, we're watching Spider-Man 1, like, "Oh, okay, guys, let's take a 45-minute break here right here and talk about this." Like, no, we're gonna make a video about that. Or I'm definitely gonna have a movie on my favorite actors and actresses, or a video about my favorite actors and actresses. I have a video about my favorite genres. Probably have a video of my top 4, stuff like that. Probably have maybe a video that breaks down my letterbox going forward, or maybe like a video that breaks down the channel, like once we're like kind of set in stone, stuff like that. Um, but yeah, definitely stay tuned. Maybe it just won't be reviews. There's also like those trailer videos. Like I said, I don't know if there's gonna be a Discord where we can come talk about movies. Mm, I don't know. I really don't know. We're just starting. Like I said, I'm so excited to get started. I cannot wait to hear from you guys as we move forward and make these videos. I really am excited not only to make these videos and to meet you guys, but to start like really reboot my journey here into becoming a filmmaker. That's really cool. But yeah, at the end of the day, my name is Josh. I love movies. Cannot wait to meet you guys, and thanks for watching. Cannot wait to see where Sunflower Films uh, and I go in the future. So, thank you guys.